Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more turkey patterning. And I've got a new shell out here today that we haven't tried yet, so I'm definitely curious to see how it does. And a lot of you guys say that you like them or that you've tested them with good results before, so I'm definitely curious to see how it actually does, that's for sure. So for the shell I've got out here today, I picked up some of the Winchester Double X loads. These are a 12 gauge, 3-inch, 1 3/4 ounce load of number 4 shot, moving about 1,300 feet per second. These are a load of lead 4s, which I've had mixed results with. Some do pretty decent, others don't. So I'm definitely curious to see how the Double X shells do, especially considering that they're only like $15 or $16 a box, which is cheaper than the longbeard shells. Now these are a copper plated BB with Grex buffering, so there's absolutely a chance that they do pretty decently. So I'm absolutely excited to see how these things perform. So as for the setup I've got out here today, I brought out the Remington 1187, but for a choke, I went with this guy. This is an older Colonial Arms RCTK2, which is their extra full 675 constriction turkey choke. And this choke, being 675, has done pretty well with the number 4 shot in the past. So I figured that's where we'll start with these shells. 675 will give them a little bit of breathing room and not be super tight on the constriction. So it might work out for us, or it might not be quite enough constriction. I don't know. But either way, I figured 675 is a pretty decent starting point to see where we're at with these shells. So as for the test, everything is going to be the same as usual. I have the turkey paper set up at 40 yards. I also have the chronograph, so we will be able to see our speed and how close it is to the 1,300 that they claim on the box. So let's get you guys set up with a view of the target. I'll head up and take the shot. We'll look at our chronograph, and then we'll go down and see how they actually performed at 40 yards. I know a lot of you guys like these Double X shells, so I definitely have some decently high hopes for how they might perform today. But let's head over here and shoot them and see what kind of performance we can actually get today. Okay, so that shell gave us 1264 through the chronograph. The box was claiming 1300, so we didn't quite see their claim, but mid 1200s isn't too terrible for these shells at all. For a load of lead 4s, that'll be plenty of energy while also not being pushed too fast, I wouldn't say, to blow the pattern wide open. So our velocity looks pretty good in my opinion, even though it's not quite meeting their claim, at least through this setup with this particular shell today. But how well did it actually pattern down at 40 yards? Let's go take a look and see. Alright, so now we're down here at our 40-yard paper, and this is what we got. Now, we do have a dead bird. There are a couple down the spine right down there, not to mention the fact that a bunch of these would have gone through the body. So he would have been a dead turkey. However, looking at the pattern as a whole here, it's really kind of a mixed bag, I'd say. It's by no means what I would call a super tight pattern whatsoever, but it doesn't really look like it's blown open either. This kind of looks to me like not enough constriction. Now we do see some of these flyers up around the top here, which I'm not really surprised with a load of 4s like that being lead. It's not uncommon that I've seen anyway for some flyers, but our core area of our pattern is definitely down in this area right down here. And although we do see a few voids, like there's one right there and one right down there, the overall coverage or spread of the pattern looks relatively even. So again, another sign to me that 675 might just not be quite enough constriction for these shells. But seeing this, even though I wouldn't call it a super impressive pattern, I definitely think we have a lot of room for improvement here, because I think we can get a little bit tighter of a choke with those shells and see quite a bit better performance. This is not terrible. You could use it for turkeys the way it is, but I definitely think we need to go tighter on the choke constriction, that's for sure. And it's also pretty interesting how low this shell actually shot. That setup usually hits right where my bead is, and that's not what we saw. So I might have to remember to raise these shells up and hold a little bit high on them or something. I don't know. But either way, even though I wouldn't call it a super impressive pattern, it's not terrible. It's not the worst we've seen. And I definitely think we're on the right track anyway. So overall here, not anything amazing for today's test, but we're not off to a terrible start either, I wouldn't say. Okay, and here's the wad out of that shell, and as you can see, it looks and feels very, very similar to a Longbeard XR wad, and it probably is. I don't have one on hand to compare them side by side, but just by looking at it here in person, it legitimately looks just like a longbeard wad. But as you can see, nothing stuck down in there. You can see all the dimples from the shot. We had this one petal open up farther than the rest, which might be why we saw some of the flyers up towards the top of the pattern. But other than that, really nothing too special to note, and it's really not even super scuffed up either, which is another reason why this might do a little bit better with more choke constriction. So nothing really too special to see out of this one. Alright y'all, well, what did you think about that performance there? It's definitely not anything I'd call super impressive to start with, and it might look a little bit better visually anyway if the shot would have been a little bit higher on the paper, but that might just be how these shells shoot, or at least through this choke combination anyway. But either way, even though it's not a super impressive or tight looking pattern, I think we're off to a decent start here. Like I've said multiple times already, I think these shells might want a little bit tighter choke, so that's definitely something I want to test and see how well they do. But as always, leave your thoughts in the comments. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you hoping for a little bit better? And if you run these shells or have tried these shells, how have they done for you? And what choke constriction do you think they do well through? Let me know all that down in the comments. And maybe what other setup or choke combination might you want to see them through. Leave a comment and I'll see what I can do about bringing it out here and trying it for you. But that being said, I've got some more testing to film for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send things if you'd like. All that information will be in the description if you're interested, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.